Can anyone see or hear me? I don't know if I have this hooked up correctly or not. It says I am live. Can you hear me? Okay. Bear with me. I have never done this before. I've taken some crash courses on the YouTubes and okay, thanks. My sister-in-law's here. My sister-in-law, you will see, is blushing blue eyes in the chat. She's nodding for me. If you can help her out a little bit. But I don't really know how to work this stuff, so I'm just gonna kind of give it a go and see how it goes. I guess that's the best way to do it. But I wanted to try this video here. If I can find it now. I'm gonna try to download that. Thanks everybody for being here though. I really appreciate it. I've been putting this off for a little bit because of all the extra stuff that we've had going on. Salty Sea, YouTube Dumpster Firefighters, Sweet Tea. I'm happy you guys are all here. Really happy. If anybody has any pointers or anything, type them in the chat. I was looking for Your Main Girl, if anybody has seen her here yet. I don't think she's here yet. So a lot of people know a while back in Tiffany Marie's chat, there was a day that just kind of happened on its own. There wasn't any planning or anything like that. And I think that's how I met most of you. Beans, you're so sweet. It was kind of a day that I had just had enough of the way that sensitive things were discussed or talked about, especially when it comes to being a bereaved parent and not really being understood. And if you were in that chat, you know what I mean. That day was pretty moving for I'm forever grateful for that. But I feel like it brought a lot of us together. YouTube Dumpster Fire. It's also the day that she had her baby. I've always felt like the beginning stages of my grief alone, it's normal to be selfish and to be angry at things that you normally wouldn't be angry about. It's just a really, really bad place to be. On that day, though, I noticed how many people overlooked any possibility of who was in their chat and who was listening. And for one, it was very moving. I'll never forget that day. I'll tell you my side of it. I normally wouldn't have been doing what I was doing. I had stayed home. I was doing some cleaning and organizing and whatnot. And to make a long story short, I was listening to Tiffany in my earpods. And I just noticed how angry I was getting. I was like scrubbing the floor with all my might. I wear out pretty easy because of my injuries. But on that day specifically, hearing the jokes and the bantering and the back and forth, and no one was saying anything. I mean, Tiffany was saying a lot. Exactly, Salty. I was too. I couldn't believe how naive people could be to who's in their chat, who's in your chat listening. And I know how grief has changed my life drastically. People don't get it. People don't understand how you have your child and you name your child and you bring them home and you raise them and you see their personalities. coming up his anniversary death date. It's a little emotional, sporadic. But nobody cared about who was at home listening. Nobody cared who that there's so many of us out here. And on that day, I had never super chatted Tiffany. I had never really commented much. But on that day, I just had this need to feel heard. I needed people to see that there are people in the chat and that she had every right to be angry and pissed off. She had every right to call out the behavior. And I don't want to get into the drama of all of that, but I needed to be heard, and I needed people to see that if it was okay to make those comments about a missing child who they were presuming to be deceased, and they could make those comments about mine and about anyone else's. And the ugly part of that is that means I'm not welcome. That means I'm not welcome, and I'm okay to not be welcome to a place or an environment or a community. But I'd rather it be because I said or did something wrong, not because my child died. So I come off the floor and I went to the computer and I super chatted and I typed in whatever I typed in. It was long. It was like, if this is okay and acceptable, then I'm not welcome here. And I felt better. I felt like I had been heard. I felt terrible for upsetting Tiffany. No one would have seen the reaction coming. I still feel bad about that. But what happened after that was unbelievably beautiful and amazing. And I, for one, will never take light of what happened. But everybody started typing their child's name in the computer. Everybody. Everybody started typing it. Everybody was acknowledging each other. And I don't know if the first time that I was understood, the first time that my story and they cared, you know. I've talked to several people off of the chats through email, and something that always rings true is you feel like the elephant in the room or the elephant in the china shop. You feel like the person who you can clear the room, you know. You don't know what to say, you don't know what to do. And at some point you just kind of stop trying. You stop trying to fit into your social circles. You stop trying to meet new friends because you're always going to be the buzzkill. You know, I remember a friend taking me to it was like a Tupperware party, but for a different company. And I remember being so upset and mad because I didn't get the chance to walk in and be Stephanie. I had, you know, my friend intention. She didn't mean anything bad. She had already told everyone, you know, that my son had recently passed. So I was walking in, meeting all of these people, and they had, like, you know, the kid gloves on. It was kind of like, be careful what you say. And it just comes with a lot of judgment, and a lot of people don't want to deal with it. You're like a walking billboard of, you know, the possibilities of someone else's child dying. No one wants to face that. I don't want that to happen to anyone else. But the day that I spoke out in Tiffany's chat and I met so many people, several that have contacted me, some that haven't, but I've spoke with in the chats. I felt like we needed a place. We needed a place to support one another, to care about each other, to understand each other. I mean, a place where we're going to get something that we don't get with our normal everyday social circles that some of us probably don't have. I had an email last week from a girl, right, you know, in the same chats that we're all in. And she lost her daughter 8 or 9 years ago, tragic accident. And she's still in the beginning stages of grief because she's had no support system to kind of help pull her out. I don't know what it was that pulled me out. I can say work, I can say my job. I could have sat at home and decided to just kind of give up. It would have been easier. But something said, no matter how bad I have it, or I feel that I have it, there's always somebody out there that has it worse. And I know that probably sounds really strange, but when you're in the pits of hell and you have no hope, no care, you'll look for anything. I mean, just anything to save your life. And I went back to work. And I'm glad that I did, because I really don't think, I don't think I would be here now. I have a brother named Scott. I think he's watching. He's a moderator, but I doubt that he types. I think he's sitting at the door waiting on his train home. He was probably the first person at work. He's not my real brother, but for all intents and purposes, he's a brother. And he was probably the first person that let me know that I was normal and to feel normal, and it was okay to cry. It was okay to be sad. It was okay to have any of the emotions. And he would even get sad with me sometimes. And that was the first time I thought about coming out of my shell. But that day with Tiffany, I had no idea how many of us were floating around in the YouTube chats in the true crime community. I had no clue. And it bothered me immensely. I don't get involved in, I didn't know there was a drama community. I had no clue that there was a drama community. I knew that there were people that didn't like each other, but I never chased any of that banter, that back and forth banter, because I was here for a completely different reason. I started looking at true crime because of the Delphi case. I took trains into Peru, Indiana, which is where a lot of the Delphi stuff was going on. And they didn't catch the murderer, two little girls, Abby and Libby, that were murdered. And the murderer was still out and about running around. I'm a woman working with a bunch of men in a dorm. I don't know most of them. So I was, my eyes were opened. Everywhere I went, it was kind of like, does that look like Bridge Guy? Does that look like Bridge Guy? But I found a flyer that said somebody had made, and it said something like, Gray Hughes Investigates was a channel on YouTube that had a lot of information. So I went to that YouTube channel, and I found that he had a lot more than local law enforcement had. And so I was watching this, this case unfold. And it was the first time that reality hit me. Here I am, sitting at home, crying, whining, can't find a reason to live, lost all hope, not sure what to do with myself, just kind of going through the motions. No new normal, just kind of going through the motions, watching the days on the calendar pass by. And I thought, this whole community, two families, these two little girls that were best friends, do something that they've done so many times. They go to this park and they walk down the trails, and some monster murders them. Two little girls. Their families are without them. Their whole community is without them. At the same point, nobody knows who did it. And I'm and crying and self-pity and loathing and frustration and anger. And it just kind of woke me up a little bit. And then from there, I don't remember exactly in order, the California city, Orrin and Orson, West. With that case, it was kind of, it had its own separate pieces of the puzzle, but so many people that were affected. Xavier Harrelson, Cash Vernon, and then Summer Wells. And true crime for me has been humbling, a reality check, and it keeps me out of those deep, dark places. I'm fortunate that I had Scott, his wife Karen, a couple of other people that genuinely cared to yank me whenever I needed it. That day in Tiffany's chat, I realized how many of us don't have that person to yank them out of those deep, dark trenches. And that kind of broke my heart all over again. For me, it's not about growing a channel or for me, it's not about money. It's not about growing a channel. It's not about the drama. It's not about who says what about who. It's not about that. For me, it's about supporting people who feel like they don't have it. It's about having a safe place for people to come and talk to other people that are going through what they're going through from one stage to the next, sharing healthy outlets, um, not becoming a statistic. It's about learning how to explain to the world that we're not crazy. We're not, mental head cases. We're not any of those things. We're just hurting and we're getting through it. It's really what it's about. And I felt a deep, I love you, sweetie. I just love you. But I felt a deep pulling to create that. I went on a mad hunt. I Googled and I searched through YouTube and I went to so many different places and I tried to find grief support, and it's so taboo. It's just not out there. It's just not out there. There's certain types of grief that you can find information about, but for those of us who have raised our children to a specific age, it doesn't even matter. But they didn't pass from SIDS and they didn't pass from like childhood diseases. But it was just like a tragic accident. Totally out of left field, didn't see it come in, no preparation, no warning. Um, there's nothing. There is nothing. I was looking at a website the other day, Grief Resource Network, and it had every type of grief, including your pets. When I clicked on child, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. It breaks my heart because parents, it's like the only thing that's going to happen where we don't find a self-help book, nothing that tells us what to do and how to do it. And I know in my darkest days, I don't ever want to go back. But I don't ever want people to walk that alone. It's extremely important to me that no one walks that alone. I know there's a lot of attacking and fighting right now. Some of it's directed at me. A lot of it involving my son. I know they're watching. And all I'm going to say to you is this. You don't know anything about my story. You don't know anything about my son. You don't know anything about what we have gone through. You have your own agenda. None of it is right. It's not about sympathy. It's not about attacking a grieving mom. It's not about that. It's about boundaries. It's about intentionally doing harm. It's about trying to ruin something good because it doesn't fit your narrative. I'm not going to partake in it. I have no reason to partake in your hate and your negativity. I have no reason to do that. I've seen the videos about me and my son. It's your opinion, and I didn't ask for it. Therefore, it has no relevancy in my life whatsoever. I don't care what you think about me. At the end of the day, you didn't walk my journey. You don't get to judge. If you're not willing to get in the trenches with people when they're at their lowest of low, if you're not willing to hold them while they're hurting, if you've never walked it, if you've never had your own trench, you don't get to judge those of us who have ever been in one. So if it makes you feel better to slander my son's name all over the internet, if it makes you feel like an important person, go ahead and do it. You're not going to change who he was and who he is to me. You're never going to change that. All you're going to do is make yourself look like the animal that you are. Nobody's poking any bears. You just keep coming. I always wonder what's the intention behind the action. It's the intention for doing what you're doing. I know your intention. It's not my place to judge you as much as you judge me. But I will not engage or partake in any of the negativity. I will not give you any part of me because you so desire the attention. You can find it elsewhere. So that's really all I got about that. I don't want to get into the drama. There are no cash links. There never will be. I've seen some comments lately about, building a channel. None of this is about that. The women that were in Tiffany's chat that day, that a lot of them said it was the first time they had ever typed their child's name. It was the first time in a very long time, that they had ever heard someone else speak their child's name. It reminded me of going into Starbucks, and when they grab the cup and they go to write, what's your name? And I would say Cody and stand back and just kind of look around, because it just felt good to hear his name be spoken out loud and not have people look at me and walk out of the room. And I know a lot of you know what that feels like. And I just think it's about time everybody that wants to interact on YouTube has a place to go. That's what I think. Oh my gosh, I feel like I have been graced with awesomeness. Do y'all know T-Spiracy is here right now? I think I have a girl crush. T-Spiracy has been pretty great. I do have a video that I wanted to show. I wanted to show my video capabilities, or lack thereof. But I kind of put it together a little bit when I was playing around. If somebody can tell me where to click I see the share button, but I would really like to show it if I can. And then I just wanted to talk about what we could do to support each other. Does anybody know if Logan's mom is here? I was watching her videos last night. Anybody? T-Spiracy, you are the best person. I just adore you. I did. I put it off for a little bit. I was thinking about it that after Tiffany's chat, after that beautiful day that came out, after that gorgeous day of just so many people feeling heard, I was so emotional. I was crying because there were so many of us. Oh my God, there were just so many of us. That was so many broken hearts. Every name that you've seen, that was a broken heart, devastation, chaos, tragedy. It was just so much negative, and I felt all of it, and I cried. And then I just felt inspired to, if I'm in the chats hiding and lurking because I don't want to clear the room or be the sad girl or whatever, I know that they were feeling the same way. And I just couldn't be silent anymore. It's not about anything other than that. I know how I felt. I don't want anyone to ever feel like their child doesn't matter, or that they can't say their child's name, or they can't talk about their child, or show pictures, or talk about their death, or talk about the things that go through our head that a judgy, non-bereaved parent would judge. I get it on so many levels. And if I'm feeling it, I know they're feeling it. And I looked and looked and looked, and I couldn't find anything. Any channels, any communities, any groups. The few channels that I did find were involved in other stuff that just kind of overrode, the grief aspect. And I just don't want any of that. Oh, T-Spiracy, thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, send them over. I want healthy outlets. The last statistic that I read when it came to specifically my child loss, which is over the age of, I think it was 12 or 14, with no warning, tragic, no illness or anything like that. It was like 6 out of every 10 parents will attempt suicide. Eight, I'm sorry, 8 out of every 10 parents will attempt suicide. 6 will actually succeed. That's heartbreaking. That's, to me, that's heartbreaking. No one, no one can tell their story if we're not here to tell it. Nobody can show. We have to be here to do it. That's all. I want to try. I want to try to share this video. I hope I can do it. I love T-Spiracy. She cracks me up. Photos. StreamYards is so easy. It's not. Oh, that's my only child, Dan. 537. Sorry. I don't know how to do it, dumpster fire. Dumpster firefighter. I hit share. Then it pops up. Quinny, I'm sorry for what you're going through. 5 years, the rest of the world is probably thinking 5 years is a long time, but 5 years isn't anything. My son died in 2016, and it seems like that was just a month ago, really. I mean, it really doesn't seem like it. So I'm really sorry that you're going through it and that you've been forced into this world. I'm really sorry. Mm, I don't know why it won't let me. This is why I was asking for help with figuring this out. Oh, wait, maybe if I do it like this, and then I put it in there. Nope, it won't let me. They said, do StreamYards. It's easier. I say, no, it's not. Let me try it now. I think I saved it the right way. I'm just so bummed. Video file? Pictures? Right? No. If Scott was home, he could do this. iCloud. Maybe it's just not going to let me. That's bummed. Yeah, I don't know how to do it. I made it. When I try to share it, it tells me I should be able to click. I should be able to click share, then video file. I think if I'm doing it right on my end. I hit share. video file. This was trying to do before I came on. No. I'm so stupid when it comes to this kind of stuff. Nope. No. It's asking me for all kinds of stuff. Oh, wait, isn't it? Photos? Wait a minute. I think I can share it into that one file, maybe? I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how to do a lot of this stuff. And, you know, share it directly from my directly from my device. Share albums. Well, I can pull it up here. Wonder. I don't know. How frustrating. Let's see, I tried to put it right over here in videos. Share. I don't know. It's a newer laptop too. Yeah, I agree, Quinny. I would love to hear everybody's stories. I'd love to hear individual stories and what's working for them and how they're coping, what they're coping for. Queen of Kings, I'm really glad that you stopped in, and I hope you come back and get something from whatever we have going on over here, right? If Cameron was here, he would definitely have it figured out. And yeah, I think it's important that anybody that wants to tell their story. I was really hoping Logan's mom stopped in. I was reading or watching some of her videos late last night, and just heartbreaking, super heartbreaking. Does anybody here tonight want to talk or tell their stories? I do know how to do an invite link. I do have that part down. If anybody would like to, more than welcome to. Thank you, YouTube Dumpster Firefighter. I think you're a sweet person too. Salty C is such a strong person. I've come to find out that she has strength of saints. Sweet Tea also. But tonight I really just wanted to kind of play around and see how this worked and see how it went with, you know, all of the drama stuff that's going on right now. There's a link if anybody does want to come up and say hello. Quinny, have a good night. As you can tell me with this, I don't do this very often. I've been on panels, but never have I never thought I would ever do anything with the channel. Katie, that's just as important, I mean, when your niece passed away, I'm sure that your sister, your brother, your family needed a big support system. And I feel like support systems are just as important, because if you don't have one, it's so hard to try to do it alone. It's so hard to try to go alone. I mean, I think it's almost impossible, really. So, KB, I think it's super important that look, you're looking for information that's going to help your family. I mean, that's just as important. I mean, grief is grief. I've always said grief is grief. It doesn't, no one person's grief is more important than the next person's grief. Nobody has more pain than the next person. We all have our own each individual pain. It's the same thing when, when my son died, my son, who he was as a person, who I am as his mother, our relationship is so unique that no one understands. So who you are as a person, who your child was as a person, who your niece was as a person. I mean, it's so individually unique that it can't be compared. You can't compare it. You just can't compare it. And I never want to be the person that says, but I lost this or I lost that. Loss is loss, man. It's hard no matter what. Loss is loss. Loss is hard. It's lonely. It's miserable. It's painful. And it doesn't end overnight. It doesn't end. It's every day. It's every day, all the time. Constant. It's like a scratch that you can never itch. You can never scratch, It's a longing that is so desperate and so intense. You can never fill it. I mean, you never can fulfill it. You can't replace. People are not interchangeable. I used to have people say, well, do you have any other kids? Like, are you kidding me? People are not interchangeable. Doesn't matter if you have 12 kids. If you lose one, that loss sometimes is going to be bigger than the love for your children, because you don't just lose them one time. Every time there's a memory that's made, every time a sibling learns to walk, every time a sibling learns to drive, every time a sibling graduates, every time somebody gets married, they're not there. It's a forever loss. It never goes away. Never. We don't get over it. We don't get through it. We learn to handle it. We learn to allow ourselves the time to grieve and to feel it and to lean into it. But you got to have that alarm set or something that pulls you back out of it. Full transparency, August 12th to the 17th, hell. Absolute hell. I have to do that. I have to let myself feel it, but I have to remind myself. I physically set an alarm on my phone so that an hour, when I get to an hour, I kind of pull myself out of it. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how, because sometimes you can't just turn it off. But I take my STAD with me, and I go downstairs, and I go in the kitchen, and I go about the rest of my day, and the STAD just kind of builds up. And then the next time it becomes overwhelming, I have to sit down or find a quiet place or be alone, and I have to, get as much of it out as I can. To set an alarm. The 12th to the 17th, I don't set an alarm for an hour. Sometimes it might be all night. But, you got to let it out sometimes. You got to have a healthy way to let it out. But you have to also have healthy boundaries, because I know I got stuck in that deep, dark place for a couple of years and become comfortable. Before Cody passed away, I was very social, very socially active. I had a lot of social groups. I had kids always coming in and out of my house and dirt bikes everywhere. And those dirt bike kids grew up to be grown boys. They said they were men, but there was always noise. There was dirt bike noise everywhere all the time. There were mud everywhere. We were traveling. It was like go, 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 go. There's never really any time to stop. And without warning, he was gone. And then the silence is so loud, it's so big, it's so encompassing, it's so everywhere that you can't sleep and you can't eat and you can't concentrate. And it's kind of a whole nother entity, but the silence is deafening. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it really is. And over time, it becomes your comfort zone because people don't always mean what they say. The best of intentions. Call me if you need me. And you call. But nobody wants to face us. And I get it. I so get it. I'm so not judgmental about the other side of this because I know what it was like. I had a friend that had lost a little girl several years ago. And selfishly, I was the same person. I would go see her when I thought I could handle it. And I was sometimes selfish about her sadness. So I get it. But I feel like right now, today, because of those past memories and past times, I've learned to set the environment. I would go to work with guys that wouldn't talk to me because they didn't know what to say, so I would let them know what was okay to say. It's okay to talk about their children. It's okay to talk about, I want to know. I still want to know what's going on with them. You lost your niece on Wednesday. 3 and a 7-year-old without their mommy. I'm gonna send you some resources and books, and I'm so sorry. It just sucks every time. I'm so sorry, Salty. I have some resource books and journals and stuff. I'll send you through Discord, and I think I have some for the kids too that you can look at to see if they're interested, if it would be helpful to them. But I'm so sorry. It's heartbreaking. I think KB is here.
Yes, I am. I just wanted to
You're KB?
thank you for having this show. Yes, can you hear me?
Can everyone hear KB?
Vilomah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep, I can hear you. Let me make sure everybody else can hear you. Can everybody hear KB?
Okay, good. I just wanted to come up and thank you for doing this. As soon as I get through watching, I'm going to send your link to my sister so that
okay,
because
yeah,
she
please do. Anything I can do.
a support group too, and it's hard. I mean, I know there's some support groups that she's in on Facebook, but she doesn't really have people who know exactly how she feels that she can talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've never been able to find the right words to explain the pain and the agony, and it's like a physical, I mean, it's like a physical pain. I've tried so many times to find the right words. I've even tried to create the right words, but um explaining it is the hardest part. I mean, I can tell you this. Um the best way that for the afterwards, for people that are support systems, um, for family members or friends, I would say this. Before my son passed away, they the most angry I've ever been would be like, a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. You go to the hospital and they say, how much pain are you in, from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the least. So if you take every emotion, anger, sadness, frustration, hurt, agony, suffering, happy, joy, concern, like every emotion, and you think, before my son passed away, the most angry, the most happy, the most sad, the most joy would be a 10. But after he passed away, probably I would say about 3 months after he was gone, I started going above that 10 into a whole nother range of motion. So my normal 10 would have been like a 5. And then and that can last forever. I still have these emotions that'll go beyond my 10. Happy, sad, anger, frustration, determined, um, suffering. I mean, just every emotion you could, and I still will go beyond that level 10. And that's, to me, that's the danger zone. I'm not a professional of any kind whatsoever. I've done a lot of journaling and a lot of reminiscing on my emotions. And so we still go into that, past 10 phase. And when there, that's when we need the help the most. That's when we need people to kind of say, I need to help you figure this out. Let's talk this through, journal it out, something. But that's when we need the most support.
Yeah. She I think I shared this with you before, but she said she just feels like it's right underneath her skin all the time. She just wants to scream, she wants to yell, or she wants to cry. And it's right beneath her skin, and any little thing can just set her off. And it can set her off to be happy, which brings guilt, and it can set her off to be angry, which she feels bad about being angry. Um, and then she had to deal with all the first of everything, the first birthday, the first Christmas, her grandchildren's first birthday. And
Yeah.
so it's been extremely difficult for her. Um, but I'll have to say I'm very proud of her. Um, she's my younger sister, and I've always kind of taken care of her, and it's just the two of us left. And she hurts, and she lets me know that she hurts, and I see her hurting. But the rest of the world would look at her and not even know anything's wrong. But
Yeah.
um, and maybe you experience this. I experienced this as just an aunt. Um, People don't understand that. Okay, it's been 17 months. You should be over it by now. Um, no, you shouldn't. Even as an aunt, I'm not over it.
Yeah.
I will never be over it. And just can't imagine what you and my sister and the other people who have lost children go through. But I just wanted to thank you for offering this stream, and hopefully next time you're live, I'll have my sister listening to you.
Yeah, I would love to meet her. I really would love to meet her. That's the whole goal for this is, after that day, it all started with Tiffany. Um, God love her. She's just, I think the world of her. I really do.
So yeah,
Yeah, I would love to meet your
that live
sister
was
and
powerful.
talk with her. It was. It was. I bit off a whole lot more than what I thought I could chew that day. I mean, a whole lot. And even it was it was eye opening. It was. I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel as alone, but at the same point, it was heartbreaking that there's so many of us. And like I've said, you being a support system for your sister is a heavy burden. It's it's a heavy burden to bear. I mean, it's a very heavy burden. And one thing that you talked about other people's time restraints, their alarm clocks, their calendar, their schedule. Um, you're right. 17 months is nothing when it comes to not seeing your child. I mean, I would say to people who say that to your sister, I would say to them, how many children do you have and which one can you live without? And you have to tell me now. You don't get to think about the
Absolutely, yeah.
decision. You don't get to barter. You don't get to beg for their life for yours. You don't get an opinion. No one cares what you think or how this is going to go. But you have to tell me right now which one can you live without for the rest of your life. And kind of make them think about, could they go 17 months without talking about their child or mentioning their child for clearing a room? And what kind of a burden does that place on, on them? Because I know what I felt like when I walked in the room and didn't even say anything, and watched people walk out. It's the whole system is designed to make the grieving parent feel like they're the problem, really. They've done something wrong. They're deserving of punishment, and the whole world is going to punish them because why we live in a society, in a world, people would rather watch someone's life fall apart and make fun of that. Rubberneckers would rather stop and take photographs of an accident or someone on fire than they would grab a hose and help out, or pray for an accident victim. I mean, we live in a world where people love to tear other people down, and it's sad, but it's being a support system is equally as important as the grieving parent who needs the support. You are the one that carries a lot of the emotional burden, and you make it or break it with your sister. So I commend you for sticking through all of this time with her and not giving up and not becoming so frustrated that that you walk away. I think it's an amazing testament to what your sister has lost, what you have lost. Your relationship is forever changed as much as her life is forever changed. And so you've not gotten frustrated in 17 months. You've taken all of the angry things that have come out of her mouth, and you've understood where they've come from, and you've been there in her deepest, darkest moments. People don't understand what that means. I understand what that means. I'm glad that you are there for her, and she'll see the other side of the anger and the resentment. 17 months is just no time. It's such bullshit to put time restraints on anybody when they're suffering like that. And I feel like they do it because it's easier to hurry up and get back to normal. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So I commend you. I commend you for
Well, and
sticking
I
through it
know,
and not being one of the people.
well, I know too that, well, I know one thing that's really bothered my sister, and I mean, I don't know how I feel about it because it hasn't happened to me, but she'll say, you know, somebody will say to her, I know how you feel, I lost my grandmother. I know how you feel, I lost my brother, or whatever. And she's like, I've lost my grandmother, I've lost my brother, and now I've lost my child. You don't know how I feel. They're all
Right.
different feelings, and they're all, I don't want to say one's more important than the other, but she
Right.
explains it as the other ones hurt and were horrible, but this one has
Hmm.
almost killed her
Yeah.
because she talks about how she was, you know, she got to be there with her when she took her first breath, and then she was with
Hmm.
her when she took her last breath. And
Absolutely.
no one should have to go through that.
No
But
one
I'm
ever.
going to jump
Ever.
down. I saw Salty C. I want to let Salty C know, Salty, I know what it's like to be an aunt. I know sometimes people just think, well, you're just the aunt. Well, sometimes being just the aunt, you raised the kids, you lived across the street from the kids played with your kids, so you have a vested interest in your niece's life as well. And don't let anybody think you're any less. just because it was your brother or sister who lost a child, because you'll be the
Absolutely.
lifeline to your brother or sister. And I'm praying for you. But I'm going to let emergency me talk, and I'm going to go ahead and get down, okay?
Thanks for
Baby, I
coming up,
love you.
KB. Anytime. You're always
I love
welcome.
you too.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Um, did you get my DM? I want to make sure you got my DM because I can help you with that issue. Don't
I
talk
believe
about it now,
so.
but
Yeah.
just read your DM.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I will do that. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Vilomah,
Hey,
all I wanted to
emergency me.
tell you is that I'm so proud of you. So
Oh, thank you.
proud of what you're doing here. Um, you are making an amazing difference in opening up a platform for uh, for people to come and talk and express how they feel about loss and, and for parents, but for others just to express their feelings of loss. Um, I've never lost a child. Um, I am a
Thank
child.
God.
I'm a child of loss. Uh, I lost my mother when I was 6, um, but uh, my mother was murdered by my biological father. Um, so, uh, and there's a big long story to that, but and I won't get into it. Um, but uh, so, and I was witness to that.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, but again, I won't get into it. But my siblings were told that I was also murdered. And so for almost 7 years, uh, they thought that they had lost their mother and their sister.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
and then to find out that I hadn't been murdered.
Thank
So
God.
yeah, thank goodness. Um, but so that when I had been rescued, they I had lived with survivor's guilt
Hmm.
because of it. And there was a whirlwind of emotions because of it, um, from them, from me, from and everybody, um, because of a lot of different things. But um, the the resounding thing of that is you 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 never really understand how long that lasts. I'm a grown woman with my own kids and everything else. And even to this day, me and my siblings, we talk about our mother like she's still right in the room. And
Yeah.
um, it's been years, you know. And so
Hmm.
that sense of loss never goes away. Um, and I couldn't even imagine what it would be like for a mother or a father to lose a child, and that utter sense of loss of it, um, to, or what my siblings felt like, you know, for the loss of a mom and a sibling,
Hmm.
that what that felt like. So what you're doing is so incredibly moving, and how you went into Tiffany's chat and what you said and what that started is, I'm just so proud of you. And I know you've gotten backlash, and I'm proud of you for not even giving it air to breathe, to
Yeah.
just let it go, just to let it go, to let it lie, and not giving it that air for the fire to burn with it, because it's not worth its time. It's not. And what you're doing here is so much greater than anything that anybody else could do. And I'm just proud of you,
I
Dana.
appreciate it greatly. Thank you. And I agree. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just telling Dana, just stop.
Mhm.
Dana, stop it.
Yeah, I agree. The more you feed the trolls, the bigger they get, and the more you feed the hate, the more powerful they think that they are. But thank you for that. I greatly appreciate that. And that day at Tiffany's was absolutely life changing for those of us
Yeah,
who are on one or the other side. But I wanted to tell you, you have a story. You have quite a story, and I don't compare. I don't compare one person's grief to another's. I think it's all ugly.
yeah.
It's all messy. It's all hard,
You broke
and
up.
it's
I'm
all
sorry.
something. I'm sorry. It's all something that completely can change anyone's life when it's affected. I think
Mhm.
I think that what you've gone through is as equally heartbreaking, as equally tragic, and as equally difficult as what I've gone through, as what anyone in this chat has gone through. It's we're all so uniquely individual, and tragedy is just tragedy, man. There's no way to prepare. We don't prepare for the good things in life. We prepare for the bad things in life. I mean, we have
Yeah.
9 months to prepare for having a baby. We have, 4.5, 5 years for them to go to school. We have, you know, 12 years for them to graduate. We prepare to buy a house. We prepare, for a new car. We prepare to move. We prepare for all the good things in life because tragedy just sucks the life out of anybody. So I think that your tragedy and what you're suffering is just as big and hard and messy, ugly, and consuming as anything I'm dealing with or anybody else is dealing with. Don't underestimate what you're carrying and what you're working through and what you're feeling. Not even for a minute. No one really has the right to compare. Losing a child is its own messy. I think that you've lost your mom to horrible to in such a horrible way, but also just the whole story is just so tragic. I think what you're carrying is a lot too, and I can't imagine walking in your shoes right now. I'm glad that you came up and talked about it. I'm glad that you know that I'm here, that people are here, and that when you're ready, I would like to hear your story. I would like to share with you what's worked for me. I would like to be here for anything that you need. Really,
Um,
but I
my
don't want
thing.
you to ever
Oh
underestimate
no. I mean,
me.
I like mine. Like um, I mean, it's just I don't know how it's the best way to explain that. Um, for me, um, like I got out of my situation when I was 12 and
Mhm.
almost 13, and and I was rescued. So uh, and then I was put in an amazing family, um, and uh, and my dad, not obviously not my biological, but my father who raised us.
Right.
He took amazing care of us, and he did. He taught me some amazing skills and amazing coping skills and some amazing things. And and uh, not feeling sorry for oneself was just not an option. Um, I tried that for a while, and I learned it wasn't going to work. And um, and the my dad who adopted us, uh, he was my mom's boyfriend at the time, and so he took us in, and Um, and he raised us like his kids, and he loved us incredibly, um, and never looked back. Never treated us anything other than his. And so um, he grieved with us, and still to this day grieves, when we grieve. So, um, you know, I had it good after that. I treated him like crap. I was self-destructive. I was, all of the things that you do, when you're, a kid and going through stuff, you you self-sabotage to the fullest extent.
Mm-hmm.
But he instilled values. And so I grew up and became a nurse, and um, I learned some valuable lessons. Um, and I, to this, today I'm a nurse. I work with, um, I work with an organization for kids that are trafficked.
Mm.
And I'm a SANE nurse, which is a sexual assault nurse examiner. Um, and uh, I I do things that I put back into this world, um, for other things, and I love all the things that I do, um, and it's like a penance to myself, you know, to to make sure that I can look at myself in the mirror every day and make sure that everything's going to
Mm-hmm.
be okay, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm dedicated to that because you never know. You just never know. And I'm a huge, staunch person for survivors and victims, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll never, never, never will, um, never will there be a survivor of anything. Never will I turn my back on a victim of anything. Um, and so those kinds of things are just things you won't, I don't know, I'm hard on it. I'm, if you need something, I'll give you the shirt off my back. I'm not stupid, I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stupid, but, um, in those almost 7 years of things that were going on with me, um, I didn't help other people. I was kind of stuck in my own situation, and I did have opportunity to call for help and all of those kinds of things. I didn't do it. I kind of accepted my fate, and that that acceptance also condemned, a lot of other kids, and not only myself but other kids, um, and I regret that terribly. But uh, and I promised myself that I would never do that again. Um, and so I love hard and I'm loyal to a fault. I'm fiercely loyal. Um,
I think I think that Eden said something up here that I wanted to say to you. Grief, just like mental health, has got to stop being a taboo subject. Um, when you were talking about for 7 years taking care of yourself, what I hear you say is for what you went through, 7 years of time to ingest it all, to get to a point of understanding. But look who you are now. You're a STAIN nurse. Um, you're out there helping traffic victims. I mean, you're like awesome. You're doing stuff that most people can't do. Most people don't have the heart to do. Most people have no interest in doing. Again, something that's kind of brushed to the side. Everybody wants to know everybody always wants to know the gory details, but who cares about the cleanup? Who cares about the after effect? And so that's you. That's what you're doing. You're there with you're you're walking through it, man. You've got a hell of a story. You've survived so much trauma and pain, and at the other end, you're the person who's now comforting and giving care to those who are going through, some of the things that you had to go through. I think it's again a testament to who you are. The
Yeah.
other day, like the people who suffer greatly are the people who are willing to lend, like, stick their hand out to someone else, something like that. I don't know exactly how it was worded, and I thought, I mean, it makes sense. A lot of us took a lot of crap for helping. It's, spun it into a whole nother situation, but I get you. I think you have a story. I think you're an awesome person. I think that you've gone through some terrible tragedies and so much suffering and pain, and look who you are today, lifting other people up and giving them a voice and holding them when they need it, comforting them, giving them the resources. I mean, I'm glad to know you. I'm I'm very glad to know you. I think that there's a lot of people out there that when they're a lot older and they look back on who influenced their life and who showed them the way and who was there for them, I think that they're going to think of you first before anybody else. I think I'm glad to know you. I think that you're an amazing person. I really hope that you stick around, and you have so much to give. You have so much to offer and so much to teach, not only victims, but the flip side of that. You have things to teach. I want to see it. I think
No,
you're an amazing
I
person.
I appreciate that. And it's not the, it's for me, it wasn't the reason why I decided to do it, because of any of that. Um, it was, I knew I wanted to do something to,
Hmm.
like, when I decided I wanted to be a nurse, I knew I wanted to do something. And it, to help people. And so, um, and probably giving me a gun was probably not the best thing. So going into law enforcement probably wasn't the best for me. And so I didn't go into law enforcement. Um, and so I was like, I'll be a nurse. And it was the best
Hmm.
decision of my life. It really was. And so, uh, and then everything just kind of fell into place for me, of that. I truly loved it, and everything else. But um, I don't know. None of that was like, you know, a lot of my story I can't really tell. I mean, I can tell like bits and pieces of it, but um, my experience involves, multiple people, and it's a federal case and it's sealed, and so we can't talk about
Hmm.
it. And so there's a lot of details about it that, I can't, and it involves the people, and their stories are not mine to tell. And
Right.
so
I
I
get
won't,
you.
I will never tell them. Not just because they can't be told, um,
Hmm.
because it's sealed, but it's just not my story to tell. Um,
Right. I always
but
respect that too.
and then on top of it, I'm a firm believer that a survivor's story is not a headline. Um, you know,
Exactly.
it's not, it's
Exactly.
not a head,
Hear what she said to the YouTube people, please.
you know, a survivor
Couldn't agree
story is not
more.
a headline. It doesn't,
Right.
um, it's not for public consumption, in my opinion. Um, it doesn't, you don't want to know the details, you really don't. And I don't want you to know them.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of it. Not that I'm ashamed of my life, but I'm not. Again, it's not a headline. It's not a story. It's my personal experience.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I've told my, I talk in support groups. I do all those kinds of things where it's appropriate to say it. And even in those situations, it's just not the details of the details of the details. It's just nobody needs to hear that, you know.
I agree.
You know, if something like that needs to be talked about, then it's with a counselor. It's with my, you know, it's with those things with myself. And so, you know, I just, you know, it's different, and you know, you know, I'm allowed to be exposed to certain people's experiences because of what I do for a living. But that,
Yeah.
again, that's not for public consumption. You know, I'm not going to go
Right.
around telling everybody their stories because
Absolutely.
it's not anybody's business. And if I was to do that, I would be breaking a million rules. I
Hmm.
would lose my license as a nurse, and I would lose the
Hmm.
trust of every person I'm taking care of. And
Absolutely.
uh, if I did something of that, um, I don't want to bring anybody on social media into this,
Hmm.
but by doing that, by telling somebody else's story or throwing people into the bus or any of those
Hmm.
kinds of things, you're discrediting yourself. And so if I was to say I saw a patient and this patient this and this and this and this, I would be discrediting myself as a survivor of that by exploiting their story. And
Yeah.
I think that's tragic, and I think it's gross. Um,
It
and
is. I
any
agree. I
survivor,
agree wholeheartedly.
and, and any survivor that's been through a tragedy, such as a death, or um, DV, or any kind of tragic event in their life, who does those things for any reason, in my opinion, and this is mine,
Hmm.
is making themselves look very shady by doing so. And and any person that's been through any of those kinds of things knows that, and they can see it for what it's worth when they do it. So
Yeah.
again, just my personal opinion, but I
Yeah. No, I'm,
digress.
I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you said it. It's super important to hear. It's extremely important to hear. Um, I think it's I think it's safe to say that people just love to see people hurt. They love to see the dumpster fire. No offense, dumpster firefighter.
Yeah,
People people love the negative. They love to tear each other apart. They love to exploit. And I'm with you. My son was a professional athlete. Now this is nothing like what you are talking about in your experience. The only thing I can relate to with your experience and what you do now, the only way I can relate to it is, the night of his accident, whenever he died, and like the people that show up at the hospital. They want all the gory details and they want to see him and all of this stuff. And because he was a professional athlete, the media circus that shows up and follows and goes and blah blah. And it's super invasive and completely violating as far as like, your personal space and what you want people to know. They go on the deep dive for all the little, all the little things that they think are newsworthy. And what you're talking about makes me realize that what I had to battle back then is so different. It could have been so much worse, but it kind of puts that into perspective for me. People are nosy and they want all the gory details. They want to walk through the train wreck, but they don't want to, they don't want to help pick up the mess. It's
Yeah.
sad. It's what you do though is such amazing work. I mean,
It
it's
takes a
such
team.
amazing work.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure.
mean, but at the same time, it's not just me. It takes, it takes a team, it takes it takes an army, it takes a village to take care of just one person. Um, it's definitely not a me, it's a whole plethora of people, and it takes a coordination of care of all of us. Um,
Hmm.
and not just not just in nursing, but that's in life itself. It takes an entire village to take care of everybody, and
Hmm.
without the coordination of care of everybody in our lives, it you know I think we'd all be lost, because you know think of how many people held you up when you couldn't hold yourself up with the loss of your son. That's
Absolutely.
the same thing that happens with us, and us nurses, or you and your job, or just you wherever you whatever you're doing in life. It takes an army of people to get something accomplished, and you have to work like that. If everybody's combatant, everybody left and right, it's just not going to work. Nothing's going to get accomplished. Everything's going to fall to pieces, and it just doesn't work like that. So yeah, you know, it's just the way life is.
Super messy. I totally agree with everything that you said. I would love to have conversation with you um, off of social media, um,
Yeah,
and maybe find some talk about what resources that you have for people that I'm not aware of, and vice versa. I think the I think the one thing that that I think is extremely important is tragedy, suffering, any of those things. Having the people or having the resources for these people to help them right from the get go. You know what I mean? Right before the darkness encompasses them and kind of incapacitates them. I It's the worst. It is the worst. So I would really love to get with you and share resources and websites, anything that you find for any type of tragedy, any type of trauma, anything like that. I think it's super important to have those things. I'm so glad that you came up tonight and told us, you know, a little bit more about you as a person and what you're doing. It's amazing work.
absolutely,
I admire
absolutely.
people like you greatly.
And if there's anything I can help with, and that's with resources. I do work closely with the FBI. I work closely with the FBI card teams. I work closely with all of them, um, just because of what I do. Uh, and so if you ever need help with any of those kinds of things, anything, I'm always available. Um,
Gosh,
and
absolutely.
yeah, so I mean, I don't have any inside information on cases. I don't have anything like
Oh
that.
yeah, I would never.
Yeah, nothing like
Yeah,
that.
no.
And they wouldn't
Mm-mm.
divulge any of that information, at all to me. But
Right.
you know, but you know, I mean, I have, you know, you know, those kinds of things. But so yeah, I mean, absolutely, absolutely.
That's great. I would love to team up with you and share some of that stuff. Um, yeah, it's amazing. You have quite a story. You have an amazing story. I think you're an amazing person. I think you're a testament of strength, courage, stepping outside your comfort zone, living in a real world. Um, you're one of those people on the other side who's cleaning up the mess that somebody else made and walking people in the most vulnerable and difficult times of their life. There's not many people there's not people like that around. There's just not. So I have the utmost respect for people like you who really have it in them and feel it's their calling, to help the broken find their strength and find their path. I mean, it's amazing. I'm so glad to know you.
Well, but don't say that about me without including yourself in that, into that category too, because you are that too. You are absolutely included in that, because what you're doing here alone is that. Don't cut yourself short, please. I beg of you, because
Yeah,
by
I don't think I
just
do that.
saying that you are, and again, you're cutting yourself short. Please don't. You opening up this platform for people is truly opening up an avenue for people to express themselves, which is something that is so pivotal. It really is. All we have to do is make sure that anybody watching this doesn't exploit it. And
Right.
that is something that we will all have to do. But giving somebody the opportunity to do this is so important. It really is, because you're giving people their voice. And that is all that matters. That's all it is. You're giving
Yeah,
people their voices back. And you never know how important a voice is, because people
that's
steal
true.
people's voices all the time.
Absolutely.
And so you don't cut yourself short, please. I beg of you.
Absolutely. I get what you're saying. I agree. I agree with you. It took me, I mean, at least a month. I mean, that day in Tiffany's chat when all the people they all just, they all started saying their child's name. It was so overwhelming. It was so beautiful. It was so tragic. And then, I mean, Tiffany even was so affected by that. She had to step away. I felt so guilty for kind of derailing her live stream, but at the same point, nobody had control over it. It just kind of it was its own thing, and it became so abundantly clear to me in that moment that I'm not the only person who woke up one day and made breakfast, and packed a lunch, and my kid said to me, "I'm going to go down the road and ride for a while on an off day." The next day, I was taking him to the airport to fly out to Anaheim to start indoor season and practice for indoor season. And just like any other day. But every one of those names, I saw their own story. You know, my son hugged my neck, walked out the door, and boom, that was it. That was it. There was no one called and asked permission. No one said, do you want to give your life up for him? No, it was nothing. It was just, he was gone. It was come to the hospital, I think. I thought he had broke a leg or something again. And walked in to find, what I found. And all of those people, if not all of them, a lot of them felt the same way I did. They all felt they couldn't talk about their kids because it clears a room and nobody wants to listen. Everybody walks away and everybody's like, you're the sad, you're bringing the sad, you're bringing the sad, I saw it. It was the first time that I physically saw strangers, the people I wanted to hug. I didn't know any of them. I've seen them all over, in different chats and whatever and true crime, but I didn't know that they were like me. Didn't know that they were Vilomahs. I didn't know that they were silently suffering without a voice because they too had gotten to the point of no longer trying. You only try so many times. You only try so many times to put yourself out there, to go from super social to silence to, attempting, and then people find out, oh, that's the mom whose kid died. And then everything is different. Some people get mad you never told them, others treat you different. Yeah, voices are stolen. I wanted to. Shortly after that live stream, I wanted to so bad, but I had to get my thoughts together and think, was it the right thing to do? And then shortly after that stream, all the other, all the other crazy stuff started taking hold, and oh yeah, yeah, if you want. And then it turned into a hate fest. It turned into a full on attack, and that did take my voice. It did make me silent. Um, it made me fearful of being seen anywhere or with any groups of people. It made me, I don't want to see people that I care about be attacked because somebody has, spun a narrative about me that's not true, and they're not willing to hear any of that.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's the stolen voice. And then, you know what happens? I'll be honest with you. I knew that I hadn't done or said or whatever, any of the, I knew that that crap was farthest from the truth. I knew that. And same thing I've said before. I'm not going to go dig up dirt on somebody that I think is a good person because of whatever in their past. It's not my business. I don't want to know about it. But, I went back to when I felt like I couldn't be seen in a chat or that I couldn't comment, on a live stream after the fact. When I was told by a couple of creators not to be seen in their chats because they didn't want the attacks to continue. And what that did for me, it put me right back into silence. It put me right back into fear. It put me right back into, God dang, man, I haven't done anything. I really, truly did nothing this time. And I'm going to bring the attacks. And when it's somebody I care about, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to see them be attacked because then I want to go on the attack and it just doesn't ever work out. The back and forth banter doesn't work out. So I sat for a long time. I had my physical stuff going on, my injury stuff going on, but it's really easy to get back into that dark place where, you start self-loathing. It's it's just a very lonely, very bad place to fall back into. And every one of those names, every one of them, I saw it happening in their own lives. And I thought, why isn't there a community for us? Why
Yeah.
isn't there a place for us to go and support one another? And I do fear, oh, I have a great fear. That's why I wanted to try this today. That's why today I was kind of, you know, I was kind of like, this isn't going to be good. The attacks are going to come, and then let's just get it over with. The same point, I want to make this abundantly clear. No one's going to silence people who have a voice and have a reason to be heard. No one's going to. People that are going through these tragedies, people who've lost their children and whatnot, I want them to have a voice. We have to be the person that sets the standard for other people around us. Not the standard, that's the wrong word. That sets the atmosphere, so to speak. First time I got back on a train with the guys that I had worked with for a very long time, and they didn't speak to me. They were kind of, invisible shield was up. It was because they didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to say, what they could talk about, what they couldn't talk about. And so when I started to take it personal, like it was me, the truth of it was they didn't know what were safe subjects. They would say things
Yeah.
like, I don't want to make you remember. I don't want to remind you. And things that sounded completely a little ridiculous to me. But at the same point, I wanted to learn from them. And so the communication started. And I would start asking them, how are the kids doing? How's the boys basketball team or baseball team going? And that would kind of let them know that it was okay. I wanted to hear about their children. I wanted to hear about their wives and their families and what was going on. And so that's kind of what I want to do here after I've seen how many of us there are. No one's going to understand us like we understand each other. There's people I don't even like on YouTube, but I found out that they had a child pass away, and I'm very empathetic to them. You won't see me in their traps, but you won't see me beating them down either, because I just don't think that that's ever going to get anything accomplished.
Yeah. It's not appropriate anymore. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. No,
I mean, we're
it's
grown adults.
yeah. You know, I mean, there's lots of, I mean, there's lots of people that I don't watch. There's lots of people that I don't, you know, spend time with. There's lots of, you know, there's plenty of people that I don't, you know, waste my air with. But
Right.
um, I don't have to. You know, it's a very big space. You know, YouTube
Hmm.
is very big, and um, I mean, I'll always be respectful. Uh,
Right.
I was raised that way to be respectful, but um, I'm not going out to lunch or dinner with any of these people. I'm,
Right.
I'm, any of those kinds of things. Um, so uh, I don't know. It's, and if I just don't say anything at all, I mean, I was also taught if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So
Right.
that is also another form for me of being respectful. I just don't have anything nice to say, and
Right.
I'm not going to say anything, and that's okay. Um, the whole kind of trolling thing, the whole all of those kinds of things, it's just kind of I'm grown over that. I don't do it. I, you're not going to see that.
Hmm.
You're not going to see that out of me. You know, I don't hate
Right.
watch. I don't hate bond. I don't do any of that. You know, like I'm good. I'm over it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. If anybody wants to see how quickly people can um not know someone, but yet, run their whole opinion about someone that they've never spoke to, that they've never known, and just spend 3 hours berating and chiseling away at who they are. I mean, you'll find it on YouTube. You'll find it on YouTube. That's why I've always stuck to just a handful of channels. I don't bounce around. I never have. If I will say a million times over, I'll say it. I'll say it every day on YouTube when it comes to YouTube. If you find a channel, not community, but a channel, a content creator that does something good for you, that brings something positive to your life or to a community of people, if they're doing positive things, then we should support them because that's how we weed out the good from the bad. If we're supporting the good, we're raising them up, we're helping them build, they're going to outshine the bad that are not getting that same support from the same people. So when it comes to, with YouTube especially, I will support those that I think are doing good in the communities, and then, and they're doing good things. And I don't need anyone's, permission or opinion about that. I'm just gonna not do it so publicly ever again. I will keep that private because, everybody has judgment. And I sat around and I really thought about everything. And at the end of the day, the right thing to do was to not allow any of that negativity to have power and control over my decisions. If I remain silent and I remain hidden, it doesn't change anything anyway. They still put the same crap out. So, but I'm just going to empower them. I hear all this crap all the time about show the receipts. I'm not going to empower anybody who is not capable of, thinking through their allegations, seeing anything other than what they want to see, and spinning the same narrative that just gets more and more disgusting by the day. I'm not going to empower them. I'm not going to give them control over me. And I'll be damned if the other Vilomahs that are hiding and lurking in the chats that have something to say, but they're afraid to say it because they can't find the right people to encourage them and support them, they can come here and they can do it. I hope that I have the right protection in place for people who choose to do that here. I really hope that things that I have in place to, keep people on this channel safe. I hope that they work. But being silent just didn't feel like the right thing to do. It didn't feel like the right thing to do. It felt like a punishment and unwarranted, bullshit. And so I that's what today was all about. I wanted to kind of get the nervous part out and,
Yeah. No, I
interact and
agree.
kind of figure stuff
I
out.
agree with
I'm
you.
glad. I hope so. I
I
hope so.
agree. I don't think anybody should be forced or put into submission to
Right.
to to keep their mouth shut just because anybody um doesn't agree or doesn't whatever somebody's opinion doesn't fall in line.
Right.
And
Right.
um you're not doing anything bad, you're not doing anything wrong, you're not doing anything. And just because one person or heck a group of people think that you are or thinks some whatever, it's not their judgment call. It's not. And
Right. Yeah. They don't get the power of the world. They don't get to dictate. They don't get to stand on a self-created pedestal and pass down judgments on who's worthy and who's not worthy and who's good and who's not.
exactly.
I don't think they're good. I don't think they should be standing on a pedestal issuing demands and smear campaigns and allegations, but I can't do anything about that. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not on the attack. I'm not running around, with the same behaviors and the same crap. I don't ever want to be that person. There's so much hurt out there. There's so much hurt and
yeah,
pain and ugly. I'm not gonna, like, I choose to not chase it. I choose to not be the person that goes out and chases the pain and the ugly. Even if I don't have things going on in my own life, I'm gonna be a supporter of, you know, I'm all about women helping women, building women up, not, tearing each other down. I'm all about, um, the same with men. I mean, I shouldn't say women empowering women, but it's kind of, you know, if you're doing good, I'm a supporter of you. I'm going to encourage what you're doing and respect what you're doing and take the time to listen and hear you out. And if I have a difference of opinion, I'm just gonna avoid contact with you. It's pretty
yeah,
simple, in my opinion. If you don't like
yeah,
what somebody has to offer, then you don't have to purchase it. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to listen to it.
yeah. I mean, the
Right
the
there.
X is at the top of your screen. Go ahead and
That's
click
right.
out, and
That's right.
and and you can leave at any time. It's okay. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to make a remark. You don't have to do any of it. It won't be tolerated. It's not going to be
Mhm.
okay. It'll never be okay. The disrespect, the outward disrespect of another person is not okay, and it's never going to be okay. And so just exit and go. Um,
Right.
and it's that's perfectly fine. You don't have to
Hmm.
agree with a person. You don't have to
Right.
like a person. You don't have to even understand where that person's coming from. But ultimately, as human beings, we have to respect each other for our differences of opinion. And we can
Absolutely.
all move on from there.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. I was watching. There's a there's a mom that I've seen in several chats. I've talked to her a little bit in the chats. And I didn't know that she had a channel. Um, it's kind of like a personal channel, her own. She puts her own videos and stuff on there. And so yesterday, I clicked on her name, and it was the day before yesterday. I clicked on her name and went to her page, her channel, whatever it's called, and I saw that there were a handful of videos. And I had a really bad headache yesterday, pretty much all day long. So I get the two previous days mixed up. But last night, once the headache kind of subsided, I was laying in bed, and so I watched a couple of her videos, and I was devastated for probably 30 minutes. Her son had passed away, I believe in 2015. And there are recent videos of her sobbing. Like, she didn't record herself sobbing. She would be talking about something or being on vacation or whatnot and have that moment where everyone realizes that they're not there, that the person is not there. And she just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And at one point in one of the videos, she said, "Why can't I tell his story? Why can't I just talk about him and tell his story?" And she was sobbing. But it was like that blood curdling, instant fear that she would never be able to talk to him again. That's what I got from it. And I thought, she should be able to talk about her son whenever she wants, to whomever, she wants to tell the story to, without the stigma. It just broke me. I mean, it that one hurt. That one hit deep. Just, why can't I talk about him? Why can't I tell him? She's made videos about him, and I watched every one of them. And that's why today was the day that I thought, I'm going to knock this out. I'm just going to get the nerves out. I mean, I have a list of things in order, that I feel like are important to parents that are just kind of stepping into the shoes, or that maybe are stuck in a specific place, and questions that I would like to ask those that are further in their journey than what I am, to know kind of what to be prepared for, or resources and things like that. But really, that's what did it for me, was watching a couple of those videos where I thought, we got to get her out of there. We got to get her out of that place, mentally and emotionally, where she is silenced because of the
Yeah.
reaction from those around her that she gets by mentioning her son being alive. I can understand people being uncomfortable about me talking about Cody's death. I get that. But if I talk about Cody's life and winning races and helping other riders and all of the good things that he's done, people still don't want to hear that. I understand it now. It took me 6 years to understand it, 5 years, whatever it is. It took me this long to understand it. And I wanted nothing more than to pull her through the screen and sit her down and say, tell me all about him. Tell me
Yeah.
about when he was born. Tell me about his first tooth. Tell me about the foods that he hated. You remember when you took him to eat and you put the lemon in his mouth? What did he do? I wanted so desperately to just let her know that there are people that want to know about him, and will say his name, and will be there on those really hard days, those dates, those really, really hard ones. And you can do it. And that's, truth be told, that's why today I was, I was all day just kind of like, we're gonna have to deal with all the crazy people coming in and saying all this stuff and doing all the whatever. And very last minute, I dropped a message in Discord and just said, hey, I'm really thinking about this. I didn't even tell them, but I just felt like, if she's out there, how many more? How many more are out there
Million.
doing this every night, crying? Hundreds, if not thousands. And
A
that's,
million.
yeah, and that breaks my heart. That keeps me up at night. That, I know the loneliness of grieving alone. I've been divorced for a really long time, and I know the loneliness of doing it by yourself, trying to do it by yourself. And I can tell you, if it weren't for Scott and Karen, I don't think I would have made it. I'm positive I wouldn't have made it. I'm more than positive I wouldn't have made it. I've had plans, opportunities, something would always happen. And I fear that there are people that are like that. And it's all because they feel like they can't talk about their children. Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
No.
You have a child for, 15 years, 20 years, 8 years, 3 years. They become your whole life. It's all you talk about when you have a baby. You're not your name, you're so and so's mom or so and so's dad. It's your flippin' whole identity. And then all of a sudden, without warning, they're gone. Not only are they gone, you could never see them again. You close the casket, that's it. You're done. You don't ever get to see them again. That's the number that you start keeping track of. That's the countdown. It's not when they died. The last time that you were able to touch their face or kiss them on their cheek. That's what freaking matters to you. How many days since the last time you've seen them? And then the rest of your life, you're not allowed to talk about them because it makes other people uncomfortable. You know, to me, it just seems like the most backwards, unfair crap ever. But I've lived it for, since August 12th of 2016, I've lived it. I've lived it. The first few days, they all show up. And they move you and position you where you need to be. And you say all the right things and you people please for the days. And everybody has the best of intentions. And their worlds go back to spinning, but yours never does. Because something is always missing. Something's always off. Something's always wrong. You're never in the right place at the right time. It's just, it never fits. And some people either, they love you from afar. Other people want to attack you. But nothing changes. They're always gone. They're still going to be gone. He's not going to come in the door. They're always gone.
Can I ask you a
That's
question?
what, absolutely.
Okay, because how did you survive it?
The first thing I did was I went back to work. My job forces me to turn my phone off, and it forces me to leave my house, and it forced me to turn my phone off and get on a train and go 12 hours, 16 hours to destination, stay overnight in a hotel or a dorm, and then 12, 16 hours to get back. So my job forced me to leave my home. It forced me to turn my phone off so I wasn't answering text messages and, getting phone calls and stuff like that. And then at the other end of the rail, I was away from home and away from the area, so people weren't stopping by. I couldn't walk out the door and go to the cemetery and spend all day or all night sitting at, his grave. It forced me to move. It forced me to get up and to move. And when that wasn't enough, because there comes a time when that's not enough, because now you're like a robot. You just get up and go, get up and go, get up and go. And so
Yeah.
when that was no longer enough, I happened to be working with one of the guys that is as much my brother as if we were born from the same mother. And he was the person that started talking about Cody. He started talking about his kids and his family. He laughed about stuff that was funny. And he called me out a couple of times when I was just in a shitty mood and like self-loathing, and feeling like I didn't deserve to be happy. I didn't deserve to ever have joy in my life. I didn't deserve to ever have anybody care about me. And he introduced me to his wife and his kids. And it was just normal. The first time I went to visit them, it was just normal. There was no like gawking at me from across the room or whispering, when I went to another room. It was just like normal, and it was loud, and it was what I was used to. And so that was the first time I had a glimpse of, okay, it doesn't always have to be like that. It doesn't have to be so misery. And, so I started spending more time with them and then talking, to a couple of other friends. But it took a long time to get there. It took a long time to get there. I didn't want to get there. That's kind of when, that day in Tiffany's chat, that's when I started thinking, how many of them are still in that place where I was, where they're comforted by silence and isolation, and the only sound in their house is whatever's going through their earbuds because the silence is too loud. But yet if you got like a YouTube video or a movie or whatever playing, then it like occupies your brain. It's kind of like that old keep your hands busy to keep your head busy kind of thing. And I wondered how many of them are where I once was because they feel like they're not worthy or deserving of joy in their life. And it's become comfortable for them, and they no longer try to reach out, and they think nobody's going to care or understand. And that's when I just wanted to hug all of them. I wanted to ask them all, are you okay? How are you feeling? What did you eat yesterday? No matter if their child died yesterday or 20 years ago. To me, the time doesn't matter. The time has no bearing. The time of year might matter, but the time doesn't matter. But if it weren't for if it weren't for those two events, I can tell you I would not be here. I absolutely would not be here.
The reason I
I
ask,
would
and
not be here.
it may be kind of insensitive, and I
No,
apologize if
not at
it
all.
was, but
Not at all.
um,
You're welcome.
because I have, like with I work emergency, um, and
Hmm.
so I that's I mean I've seen plenty of parents walk out without a child, and sometimes you just can't help but to put yourself there, and you're taught not to, but in some circumstances you just can't help it, and there are questions to you, like they ask you, they're like, what am I supposed to do now? And there's not a way to answer that question to them, and and um and to it would be like I would, again, like as much as you would love to talk to me, I would love to be able to just talk to you so that I could kind of teach my staff that, like, what's the best
Oh,
responses to them of these
absolutely.
of those questions, like how
Oh, yeah, I wish somebody would have told me. I really
how
wish.
do I,
I can remember asking that same question the night that he passed away in the hospital when I laid with him for hours and hours and hours. They kept taking him to the one area and then, for 30 minutes, and then they would bring him back, and they'd take him for an hour, and then they'd bring him back, and I just laid with him and just wanted to memorize his face, and all of those things. And I remember asking the nurse that night and the trauma team, I said, what do I do now? When they came and got him, Life Bank for organ donation. And I was standing in the hallway, and the most beautiful nurse, I swear I will never forget this woman. She is a saint.
did he get an honor walk?
He did, yes. Yes.
Oh, I
Yep. He had
I
an
love
honor
those.
walk.
Oh,
It was very moving. She
yeah.
had a vial, like a blood draw vial, and inside of it was his last heartbeat from the heart monitor. And she caught me before I walked back to his room, and I was getting ready to turn the corner to go into his room, and she said, "You gave him his first heartbeat. I thought you should have his last." And she handed it to me in a blood vial, and I just hit the floor again and was like, "What?"
Yeah.
It was like, like I didn't understand. But I walked back in the room where he was at and sat down for probably 20 minutes um before the trauma team had come back in and sat down with me, and I was confused. I was just so confused, and I was just kind of like, why are they here? And then I realized, why am I here? And I said that, what do I do now? Now what do I do? And the nurse, one of the nurses who had also lost a child a few years before this day had happened, and she said, you go home and you get some rest, and you contact the funeral home that you want to work with. And she said, and then you can call here in the morning and we'll make phone calls for you, which I know that they don't have to do. She said, go home, get a nice bath, and get some rest because from here, it's going to get a little bit hectic. I was glad that she told me that because if I don't know what I would have done. I didn't know what to do. It was like my whole identity was just taken away from me. It was like anything that ever mattered was gone, and I didn't know what to do. I would have probably sat in that room until somebody else came in and said, you're not supposed to be here. And then I probably would have walked down the parking lot and sat because that's the hardest part is leaving the hospital without them. It's the first time you're walking through a set of doors into the big world, even though it's the same hospital you've been to. You're walking out into a world where you don't know where you fit in, you don't know where to go, what to do, because you just left life's priority. You left them behind. They're not with you. It's The best thing that
Yeah.
they could have told me is go home, take a nice long bath, get some rest, put some food in your stomach. Tomorrow, contact the funeral home. If you have any questions, you can contact us and we'll call someone for you. I mean, it was beautiful. It was exactly what I needed to hear.
Did social services, like from the hospital, did they provide any aftercare for you?
They contacted me and they asked me if I had a church affiliation or anything like that. They contacted my pastor. Um, there was, um, there was, I don't want to say that she was a pastor with the church, but she was with the clergy of the church that had came not the next day, but the day after that. And um, she let's see, she came to the house and she asked me if I had found a funeral home, and I had done that. She opened my refrigerator. She asked me, "Can I look in your refrigerator?" She opened the fridge. There was, I'm assuming she was looking to make sure I had food or whatnot. She sat with me for about an hour. She gave me a list of resources. I didn't look through them till later, and a lot of them well, the majority of them were for like stillbirth, um, or SIDS cases. There were a couple of books that I found in that list. Yeah, the hospital was amazing. The staff at the hospital were amazing. I made his one for the 1 year anniversary. I knew how hard they had worked to save him. And for the 1 year anniversary, I had went to, well, no, I went out to the garage and I was going through bike parts, and I had a voicemail on my phone for months. I mean, probably 6 months or more, from a bike shop local where he had ordered a chain and sprocket. And so for some reason, I don't know what went through my head, but about no, it was about 10 months. It was about 2 months before the 1 year. I called them and said, "Hey, do you still have this order?" And he said, "Yeah." So I went to pick it up. And when I walked in, they knew exactly who I was. They had one of his race jerseys on the wall. They had a pair of goggles that he had autographed, and they wouldn't let me pay for it. They said, "Just take it. We want you to have it." And so I separated the links, the chain links. It was a chain for his dirt bike, for his practice bike, not his pro bike, but I had separated it into sections. And so I made keychains that had the latitude and longitude of where he's buried at the cemetery. And so I made those keychains for all of his for his motocross team, because that was the last place that their bikes were all together. And then I put his initials and his race number, so just KH and then 457, on a set for the 8 people that worked on him the night that he passed away. And I took those to the hospital with cards that said thank you, because it was important that they knew that I knew that they really wanted to save him, and that there was nothing that they could do to save him, and that it affected them, and that he wasn't a statistic at the hospital, but they would forever remember his name. And so, right, it was like the week before the 1 year. I just kept thinking about the nurse that had handed me his heartbeat, and the other nurses that had just cried, the doctor that I had saw. I mean, I seen him 4 or 5 times just hiding, behind a curtain with tears in his eyes. And it's not a little hospital, it's a big hospital. But they were very affected, and it bothered me. So I wanted them to know how much I appreciated their hard work and what they had done. And I at some point, it dawned on me that sometimes they may be blamed or not really treated with kindness and respect for the job that they do. And it was important that it just was important to me that they knew how much they mattered, and I wanted them to have something as a symbol of that, how much I cared for what they tried to do for him, for me, for all of us that cared about him.
That's beautiful. It really is. And um, you'll probably never know how much that means to them.
Well, every year, the right before the 1 year, I kind of feel like that that's still a day I'm not willing to barter with yet or to give up. It still is the 12th and the 17th of this month are the hardest days, the day of the accident and then the last day that I seen him. And I really struggle to get through those days. So I'm not willing to give those days up yet. But last every year I've sent either like a fruit platter. I sent a floral arrangement one year. Another year I went and all of the nurses are still there. The doctor, the trauma surgeon was not there, but I was able to leave a handwritten note, a thank you note. And I probably will still every year on the 12th of August, I probably will still contact the hospital or find something to do to show appreciation because I know that that has to be, I know that they wake up and that they remember what day it is and they didn't know him, they didn't know him, but it matters to me. It helps me feel like I'm honoring him and I'm honoring those that tried to save his life because it has to be hard. I mean, it has to be hard to have a 21-year-old athlete in perfect health condition come in and not survive. It has to be traumatic for them as well. And I definitely want to acknowledge that and remember that and always remember them.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for your loss. And I know that's not the appropriate words, but I'm so sorry. That's
I appreciate it. It does mean a lot. It does mean a lot to hear that. And I do appreciate it when people acknowledge that he's not here. That's a way of doing that. And no, I definitely appreciate it very much. I think that's what we as people should do is acknowledge the good and the hard part about people's lives. I think sometimes people suffer in silence and that's when mental health really that's when mental health really becomes. I mean, I just go back to so many times, before I had found visually seen, before I was face to face with joy again, I hid from it. I mean, I just got so comfortable in my own misery and silence and self loathing and, you know, just anger and just all of those negative things. I got so comfortable there that I didn't want to see anybody else happy. I didn't want to see joy. And the first time I was face to face with it, it was like a light, it was like a light coming on. Literally, I know it's metaphorically to say, but it was like stepping out of the darkness into the light and seeing that not only had this person who become like my brother, literally like my brother, but he kind of pulled me into the light and showed me that there really are there's kind people, but there's joy. There's joy and there's laughter and there's fun. And that was the first time that I didn't feel guilty about laughing at anything. I didn't feel just this I mean, I can't even say guilt. It's guilt, but it's guilt in a way that now I have to punish myself because I felt joy or I laughed or I felt good about something that wasn't supposed to be good. Does it make sense?
oh
I'm not
yeah,
supposed to feel this way because
yeah.
I've suffered. This is where my anger comes in. I want to tell you this. This is where I get flat out pissed off. In the beginning of grief, in the beginning of child loss, when people around you don't know what to say or do, they encourage you to go to the doctor. You go to the doctor, and the doctor hands you a prescription for antidepressants. Grief and depression are not the same thing, so it's not always going to work. So then the doctor sends you to a psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist wants to give you more pills. And then from there, you go, nobody knows what to do with you. It's like,
Yeah.
you're the one that's broken. You're the one that needs to be repaired. You're the one that needs to be fixed. It's like, fill me full of something. And it's either because they don't know what to say or do, or it's the easiest way to get you out of the office. I don't know why that
Yeah.
is, but it's designed to make me and other parents feel like We are the ones that are broken. We are the ones that are irreparable. We are the ones that have done something to cause this pain and suffering at the result of losing our child. And that's what I want to break. I want that stigma gone. I don't want that stigma, because that's the beginning of self-loathing. That's the beginning um of just not wanting to be alive, just not wanting to find joy, because no matter what, it's going to disappear. That's the irrationality, the all of the things that keep us pinned down into silence and darkness. All of those things it's the result of the way we don't know what to do. We know what we're feeling is bigger than what we are, but there's nowhere to take it. So you carry it, and then you eat
Yeah.
it, and then you swallow it, and you can't get away from it. You know, it's all designed to make us feel like we're the problem when we didn't have a say so. We didn't have a choice. We literally, nobody asked us permission. Nobody gave us a heads up. And there was no reason. You know, when my son died, it was because of the perfect storm, so to speak. All of the things aligned in the most perfect way, and it resulted in the accident that took his life. It wasn't because somebody was mad at him or he did something wrong or he was deserving of death. It was none of that should apply. Nothing. It was an accident. The kid that started riding dirt bikes at 3 years old, that was the fastest kid in Ohio, that was the youngest professional motocross racer for several months, that was picked up, you know, by a factory sponsored team and traveled, and that just did good things his whole life. He was donating money left and right to different organizations and handing out bike parts from his sponsors, spy goggles, you name it. Whatever he got in, he was giving them to the same kids that had single moms in the pits and a bike that was, you know, that was put together. He was wrenching. I mean, he was just always doing stuff to acknowledge where he had came from. The single mom that had to learn how to work on a dirt bike, had to learn how to, you know, how to make a block so his feet could reach him. I think he was all about it, and he didn't do anything to deserve it. But the whole world would rather I sit in the corner and be silent because they're uncomfortable, and that's where we sit. And that's what I want to change. I don't want people to self-loathe and hurt and feel like they've done something wrong, go to the doctor and get a prescription and chase pills. I don't want that. I don't want them to think that they're broken and that they deserve. I want them to see the reality of whatever the situation is. My son and his friend were stupid. They had a stupid accident, nothing intentional. Nobody was supposed to be hurt. It wasn't even like they were, you know, farting around being unsafe. It was just a stupid accident, and he didn't
Freak accident.
survive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, from, from like my point of view, from, a survivor, of what I've been through, I completely understand where you're coming from, because, my situation was a complete, I won't say freak accident, but it was a complete out of my control, out of my anything. And for a lot of us, it's a lot like that. And then there's the guilt, the anger, and all of that goes right along with it. And then you have the then you have the after, like the aftercare of that. And the statistics for aftercare aren't very, they're not good. you know um the a lot of survivors don't make it make it out. They And not just make it out of their situation, but if they make it out of their situation, the statistics of survival for a
Hmm.
long-term life aren't well. They, you know, suicidal rates are tragic. And but you go to the doctor and they're trying to treat this, and they push all these meds down you, and then it's all of these kinds of things. It's the same kind of situation. It's it's very similar, and you can't treat just one symptom of it. It's a And they're not trying to treat the whole person. They're just trying to treat symptomatics of it. Um,
Yes,
and it's,
absolutely.
and that doesn't work. It's like, um, it's like the hurry up to wait kind of situation. Like, people shove this down your throat and let me see you back in a month and let's see if that worked. Well, that didn't work because I'm so angry because of what happened. Well,
Yeah.
let's do the the, the psych route of it. And well, I'm so drugged out of my mind now that I'm not even paying attention to that stuff. And it's so back and forth. And then this, the self-sabotage comes into play in it. And then so it's a lot of the same. And I think that, not diminishing, you know, either side of a survivor of anything, because when you lose something, regardless of what it is, if it's a person or part of yourself or whatever it is, you're a survivor, a victim of that, but a survivor of that also. Um, I think the healthcare system and society has to learn that you are treating all of it at the same time, all parts of that person, not just the mental part of it, but um, the individual and the societal part of all of that at the same time. And you really have to break it down to the key points of it, of each individual person, and how that truly really feels. And that's just empathy to how that person and how that group of individuals feel. Um, because none of us are going to know how each person is. Like, I'm never going to truly understand how you feel after the loss of your son. And you're never going to truly understand how I feel because of what I went through. But
Hmm.
we all know what it feels like to lose something or survive something of our own individual situations, because it's apples and oranges, but
Hmm.
it's still a fruit basket.
Yes,
So um, it's all about empathy. I don't care what you're feeling. You know what it feels like to lose something of great value to yourself. If it's your cat, if it's your dog, or it's your most valuable ballpoint pen, whatever it is, that thing that you've lost is yours, and you worked hard at
mhm.
it. You you earned it. You created it. And it's broken now. And it
Yeah,
wasn't of your design. It wasn't whatever it was. It wasn't expected of it, and it was robbed of you, stolen from you,
right.
and you have no control over it, and you're never going to have it again. You can never get it back, and it's never going to be the same as it was when you had it before. And you know
Absolutely.
that. And with that being said, it's all encompassing of that loss. And it's how
Yeah,
we all manage to breathe, live, overcome, and achieve beyond it. And it's a day by day, a month by month, a year by year, and a lifetime to overcome.
absolutely. I know. I went to, I listened to the people that I was closest to before his accident, before he died. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor sent me to a, psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist sent me home with, I I don't know, 7 prescriptions of medication, and I have never been on medication before, so I was kind of like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? That was the first thing I felt, was like, oh man, not only did my son just die, I'm living in this big empty house alone, and I'm debating on going back to work, and now I have all this medication I have to take, all the side effects, all this. I'll be honest with you, I didn't feel but two of them. One was an antidepressant and one was an anxiety. an anti-anxiety medication. Never have taken anything like that ever in my whole life. And so I called my primary care physician's office, and I said, this is what he gave me. This is what he wants me to take. And she said, yes, you should take it. You should take it. And about 30 days later, I flushed it down the toilet. And I started doing my own research, dopamine and serotonin and receptors and what feeds what and what enhances what prevents what. And I couldn't find anything that matched up. I mean, I couldn't find what I was feeling on the inside. I had the memory problems. I had, they call it grief fog. I
Mm-hmm.
had um the flashbacks, that would put me right back in the hospital room, walking down the hallway, seeing everybody part the way, and turning into the room where I'm ready to say, what did you break this time? And there he is. And the night sweats and the terrors. And I mean, I had all of it, but nothing that I was researching. And I'm telling you, I spent weeks sitting on the computer researching, frustrated, pissed off. Something has to work. There's a pill for everything, right? No, there's not. And the antidepressants didn't work for me. And I quickly learned that it's because grief and depression are not the same thing and they can't be treated the same way. Then I went to grief therapy. And for me, that did not work because the person that, I was doing therapy with, the therapist, had never had a child, let alone raised a child and sat with a child that was sick, you know, had them chewing on your chin to, get their first tooth to pop through, the sleepless nights, the potty training, the, preparing for kindergarten. Like they never had any of those experiences. And so I went to a different therapist and a different therapist and every therapist that I went to, and I went to a lot, and they all kept saying that I needed to take the medication. And
Yeah.
I took nothing.
Yeah.
And I did it because I thought, addiction is such a real problem in our society today. Addiction is real. It is hard. It is a struggle. It is a battle. People are fighting addiction and losing every day. And I didn't want to become a statistic because of addiction. And I kept telling myself, if I numb it today and I keep it numb for a while, at some point the numbing is going to wear off. The pills are not going to work. Something is going to happen and I'm not going to be able to take these pills and numb myself. And then what do I do? And I had read books and I had talked to other people. I had listened, to podcasts. And one thing that was abundantly clear with, people that had started taking this medication was when they went off of it and they had to go off of it because it's not life, it's not medication to take every day all the time for their life. Then they were chasing a street drug that made them feel the same, or they were going to different doctors to get pain medication to numb the emotional pain, which feels very physical. And so I thought, here we have another group of people who their child dies and they're put on medication. And at some point, they're going to chase whatever street drug that's going to continue to numb what they've been, trying to not face, what they've been, pushing deep down. And I don't want that battle. I've seen that battle. I've lost cousins to that battle. I lost a friend to that battle. And that's just something that's so scary to me. I don't I have the most respect. I have the most utmost respect for people that have beat addiction. And I have
Yeah.
the utmost respect for people who want to beat an addiction and they're scared. I'll hold their hand and I will walk them in any direction away from the drug that they desperately want. I just didn't want to become that. So I have hit this, head on, and I've walked through each emotion, and sometimes it's all of the emotions in one day. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's the waves hit you, and I still keep telling myself, I mean, I have very weak moments sometimes, but I keep telling myself, number one, he left a mark on this world. He left a big mark, and it's my job to tell it.
Yeah.
And
One of my
number
biggest
two,
things. Oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry. Keep going.
how proud would he be if I gave up and took the easy route when he didn't give up and take the easy route? And number three, how of use am I going to be if I also fall into addiction because it's easier for society and the people around me?
Yeah. My thing with like the medication that they were prescribing me was it didn't make me feel alive. And I had like in my time, I had muted myself. I had not been alive in that time frame. And so I didn't want to not be, I wanted to feel, I had
Hmm.
closed myself off to everything and I didn't feel anything in almost 7 years. Um, and so I just stopped taking everything because I wanted to feel anything, regardless of what it was. I wanted to feel the pain. I wanted to feel again. I just wanted to feel alive. Um, and and everything that came along with that again. I wanted to be a person again. I wanted to be myself, whatever that was, whoever that was. You
Yeah.
know, I had I I had lost my identity, I had lost my name, I had lost everything there was about me. And I wanted to be me again. And I had no idea who that person was, what that entailed, anything about me. Um, and the doctors, they were just like, you need to take this, it'll make you feel better. And I was like, it just doesn't make me feel like anything. I don't know who I am. And I don't like that. Um, and so I just stopped. I stopped taking everything because I wanted to be me. And there's, you can take all the pills in the world. It's not a quick fix. There's no quick fix to being better. There's never going to be a quick pill. There's not going to, there's never going to be this purple pill that just makes it better. If there was, we'd be handing them out to everybody. But
Hmm.
you got to do the work, and that work is hard. And it's, because if it wasn't hard, everybody would be perfect, and nobody's perfect. And you it's an everyday struggle, and life is always an everyday struggle. I mean, ask anybody. You know, you you have to do it. You have to put in the work, and what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And you know, if you don't do it, you, you know, whatever, you can mask it with every kind of thing that you want to mask it with. Eventually, you're still going to have to deal with all the things that you swept under that rug yesterday. You're still going to have to deal with it.
Hmm.
Um, and those are the like when I said with my dad, he he taught me those little life intricacies that, you know, you can self-sabotage all you want, little girl. You're still going to have to deal with all the things that you dealt with, all the things that you're doing. You're going to have to wake up, and you're still going to have to do with it. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you at the end of the day tomorrow. You know, you can feel sorry for yourself. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you tomorrow. You're going to have to do
Yeah.
this. And he was, he was nice, but he was also tough about it. You know, um, he let me wallow in my self-pity, but he also made me stand up at the end of the day and say, okay, well, this is what you got to do. Um, and so, you know, as we all go through our things, we all have to do that. And um, again, apples and oranges, but we're you're gonna you can, with all the drugs and with all the societal things that you'll do to people, as of pushing them away and not accepting any of those responsibilities because of what life has thrown at you. Eventually, you're going to have to deal with the things that you've done to those people that you've done back to them. So, and, you know, there is no excuse for treating people badly. There isn't a reason,
Exactly.
you
There's
know.
never a reason. There's never justification. I think it's more a reflection of the person
Mhm.
who's so, so hell bent on someone else's misery. It's like, why would someone want to invest so deeply in somebody else's misery if not for their own entertainment?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think that was one of the biggest things that like my dad taught me was that, you can self-sabotage, but don't hurt anybody else. You know, don't don't you hurt your siblings. They've been through enough. Don't hurt me. I've been through enough too. Or don't hurt the people that you surround yourself with. They don't need it. And and when I started hurting the people that I was around, he put a stop to it instantaneously. He was like, I don't think so. This isn't going to happen, you know. Um,
Hmm.
and and he put an instant stop to it. And he wouldn't let me. He would not let me do it. Um, he was not an enabler in that way. Um, and and I was like 14 when that stopped. When he was like, nope, get over it, girl. You're gonna have to stop. So, but I mean, and I was lucky in that sense. Not that I didn't go on to still be a piece of crap, because I was, I did. But and I still learned my valuable lessons. I never got arrested, never got in trouble, never got any of those kinds of things. But
It wasn't too
I
bad
made,
then.
yeah, I know nothing bad, but I hurt people's feelings and I let people
Yeah.
down, and that was enough for me. You know, I hurt people, and that was more than enough for me. You know, and then I'll never do it again. I'll never do those kinds of things again. That was enough. But you learn, and that's the whole point in life. You learn not to not to hurt people. You know, and I would, I'm so excited to hear about Cody and about all of his little things that he did in his life. And, the first time he ate a lemon and his reaction to it. I'm excited to hear it. And how he got his first tooth. And the first time he learned how to ride, I'm, I used to ride when um, I was growing up. And so I'm excited to hear about that. And I'm so excited just to hear about his life, um, you know, to celebrate it. And I think, every one of us um, in here with all the Vilomahs, you know, are excited to hear about all of your guys' children and all of their lives and celebrate them to the fullest. And not just it be a place for um, mourning, but also a place for a celebration of life because it is so fragile and um, you never know when anything can happen. And I think, like, Salty and I are both nurses, and we know how how simple that is, how it comes and it goes so easily. And I'm really excited for that.
I'm really glad that you were here tonight. I think that you have a tremendous story, a tremendous heart, and you have so much to offer people that are gonna make their way here. Hopefully, um, you're just an amazing person. Just strength, just exude strength. I think I'm I'm so fortunate and so lucky. I feel so blessed to have met you and to be able to
Oh,
contact you. I think that your story is is one of just strength, just absolute strength, which is what we all need more of. I'm
Feeling
so
goes
glad that
both
you came up
ways.
to it does. And that's, one of the things earlier when I was talking about, the people that kind of pulled me out of that dark place. Lefty, not right. I put his comment up here. Um, he's not my biological brother, but if there was a brother that I didn't actually have blood relation to, it's him. But I doubt it. I somehow, some way, we are related. So that's Lefty, not right, and Blushing Blue Eyes. I just want to introduce everybody to them. These are the two, two of the most important people in my life right now. They've been my backbone through some really, really rough stuff, some really bad things. And everybody that I've met here, just we've all got a story, and I'm really glad that I came through with this tonight and kind of got the nerves out of the way. I was super nervous about how it was going to go and who was going to show up and what clips were going to be taken and whatever. But I think it's turned out to be a really good first live. I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. I'm glad for everybody that was here. I think nurses are so underappreciated. If there are any nurses that are in the chat, I appreciate you. And for every patient that didn't make it, their family is always going to think back on the nurses that took care of their family member. I know I'll never forget the faces and the names that were with Cody when he died. I couldn't be there, but they were, and I'll never forget them. They will always be very special to me. I will never forget their names and their faces. I will still communicate with them. The most important thing that on the night that he died, the most important thing that happened that comforted me was to have his last heartbeat. I don't know if it was actually his last heartbeat, but to me, it's his last heartbeat. And the hugs and knowing that they felt my pain and that my loss was not like another loss. It wasn't just another one in the books. It affected them. They'll never forget, that they tried so desperately difficult. They tried so hard to fix a very difficult, situation. There's no blame to go anywhere. I've never blamed anybody. I never would. And I appreciate my nurses. I'm telling you, all of you that are nurses are so underappreciated. But at the end of the day, you do the hardest work. You do work that nobody else can do. Salty C is just an amazing person by nature. So is Emergency Me. Both of you are just amazing women, very strong women. I appreciate knowing you, being able to call you my friend, having your support. And I hope you know that I'm here for anything I can do for anybody. Anybody. It's not just child loss. For me, that part is special, but grief is grief. And I really, I really just am happy to have a place where everybody can come and talk.
Well, I'm very fortunate and very lucky to know you and all these beautiful women in chat and to meet your family, blood or not, they're still family, and that means the world. So I'm very, very lucky. And thank you. This has been an amazing live. You have done an amazing job here. But I'm going to step down. I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to get to eating dinner with my family.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I'm gonna
and I
end
was
here quick too.
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much for coming up. I appreciate your story.
No problem. Anytime.
Well, I think I'm gonna call it a night. I didn't realize how long I had been on here, but I'm so glad for people to have joined me and talked a little bit about what they've gone through, and for people to meet my family. These two are the people I call family. So, for all the hatefulness that's going on right now, I'm just going to encourage everybody to not feed into it, to ignore it, and not partake in it. Just kind of, think about feeding the demons. We're not going to do that. We're not going to encourage it in any way. The back and forth is encouraging it. We don't really have anything to prove to people. We are who we are, good or bad. We are who we are. But um, I'm not sure when I'll do another live, but I do definitely. Here's my email. I'm gonna put in the chat. And for there's been some people that have emailed me and kind of told me their story, and it's clear that they wanna tell their story, and I want them to tell their story. I want them to talk about their children, their parent. I want them to talk about their story and have a supportive place to do that. So if anyone who hasn't sent me any information, pictures, anything like that, I will get down the screen share. I'm gonna work on that tonight, figure out exactly how to do that. But I want to have open conversation, unfiltered, raw, without judgment, absolutely without judgment, for all of us that have just sat in silence and felt like we couldn't talk. So thank you everybody for coming tonight. Dana, KB, Emergency Me, YouTube Dumpster Fire, Salty Sea, Blushing Blue Eyes, let's see, Lefty Not Right, What Big Eyes. I hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I'm so sorry. Dana Keiko. I kind of last minute dropped it on them. So thank you so much for spending so much time this evening helping me with keeping the chat safe for everybody. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. So for everybody who's hurting out there, know that I'm hurting with you. There's a lot of us that are hurting with you. Your children absolutely matter. I want to know their names and all the things about them that you want to talk about. And hopefully you'll find your way here and come up and tell us so that we can share in the joyous times that you had with them. So for everyone else, thanks for being here. You guys are the best. I found my little group of people and I love it. And if Tiffany hears this, I love you to death. You've been an amazing source of strength. I'm very greatly appreciative for all that you've done for all of us that are in Discord and in your chat and that support you. And I think Tiffany's a pretty awesome person. So everyone have a great night. Hugs to everyone, and we'll see you soon.